evening again, Mr. Chair and board members. For the work session part of our meeting tonight, you have several documents in front of you. The first document is a document entitled the 2017-18 Performance and Growth of North Carolina Public Schools Executive Summary Addendum. This is straight from the Department of Public Instruction. Again, when I attended a meeting this past Friday, this data were hot off the press. While our folk were back here at home working on Granville County's data to share with you tonight, which can be found in your yellow subgroup data notebook, and we will be walking you through that. I'd like to start in this little handout first. This handout shares with you, if you take a look at the subgroup growth results from across the state of North Carolina on the very first page, I thought that would be of interest to you before we bring it home. If you turn to the very next page, you will see the subgroups themselves as it relates to the growth designations. I thought you'd find that interesting for the state of North Carolina. You see the schools that exceed, the subgroups that exceed, meet, and then those that do not meet. Again, this is not about schools, this is about subgroups. That's for the state of North Carolina. You will then find at the bottom of the second page and onto the third page, subgroup letter grades for the state of North Carolina. Now look at the difference in the chart on the third page compared to the chart on the second page. Take a look at that. That's one of the things I love about a work session. We're going to work for this piece of the meeting. If you take a look at that data, you ought to find some commonalities, and you ought to also find some things that are not necessarily as congruent as one would think on the surface. The beauty of what Dr. Myrick and Beth Cook will dive into for Granville County's data this evening is so that you can take a look at our babies, our subgroups, third grade through high school testing. So EOGs and EOCs and the subgroups that fit us. So as you go home, this again is for the state of North Carolina, hot off the press. And remember, we're operating under ESSA now. ESSA is here. So subgroups, it used to be AYP data. Do you all remember that term? There was AYP data. Now it's just subgroup data, same thing, but they're managing it a little differently. So this is for the state of North Carolina. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Myrick and Beth Cook to share with you the subgroup data for Granville County students. Dr. Myrick and Beth.
And the subgroup data that I concentrated on in this document is male and female subgroup data based on their ethnicity, African American, white, or Hispanic. With every student succeeds that, we are held accountable now to subgroups more than ever. So what I want to do is I want to take you through the organization of this document first, and then I'll turn you loose to ask questions and you know, look at certain schools that you might have a question about. But I want you to know that I organized this entire booklet. Math is first, so we've got high schools first, middle schools, and then elementary. So within your high school document, it's broken down into math first, and then English 2, and then biology. And the first document that you'll see when you go to Math 1 is a district chart. Next slide, please, Tim. Is a high school Math 1 district chart. And that district chart is broken down into all of our male and female students for 4 years. We have 4 years of data. It takes a pivot table to pull your male and female and merge them with their ethnic, African American, white, or Hispanic. So when you look at this first chart for Math 1, then you have your full LEA and how we did as a full district in Math 1. Then the next little set of bars, you've got your male breakdown, all males in Math 1. But then what I did was I took the African American, the white, and the Hispanic. Now what I want you to do is flip to the next page because I want you to see the math that went into creating this chart. I want you to take a second and look at the math. Hang tight, boys. I'm not gonna keep you all night, I promise, I got a cutoff.
Mercy.
There are 4 years of data. So what is interesting about the math is the denominators. We are very interested in an achievement gap conversation, I'm sure. But you want every child to be at 100%, every group, every subgroup. So I used the total number in the district first, and then how many passed. So the bottom numbers in blue are your denominators, that's your total number. Your green numerator, that's how many made it, 3, 4, 5. Then at the top, you've got your male box, broken down into African American, white, and Hispanic, and then your female, African American, white, and Hispanic. But look, the denominator's not the exact same as the total male or the total female. I've used the total number of Hispanic to see how many of those students passed, Hispanic males, how many white males passed, how many African American males passed. So that's why your percentage is not gonna add up to 100. I don't want them to.
We
I want
believe
you
you.
to, I want you to look.
We believe you.
Okay.
We got you.
Okay, point taken.
100%.
But I just want you to have a common understanding and respect of where these percentages came from. I didn't just pull them out of the sky, ladies and gentlemen. There's a pivot table behind every one of these, and I can back them up. I know you believe me now. So, if you've got a Math 1 chart, then without any favoritism, ABC order, I've got my high school Math 1s listed. Early college, next slide, back up a slide, Sam. So you've got early college, Central, Webb, South, and Webb HLS. So the high schools are in alphabetical order. Then you come to this nice little tan tail. That's English 2. Okay, so now you've got an English 2 district chart, and then all the high schools. And those are in blue. Now, my favorite, let's go to the next brown tab. What's next? What's after Math 1 and English 2?
Biology.
Biology, thank you. So then you've got the district chart for biology and then each high school, okay? So now you're gonna see a teal tab, because you have just left all of your high school data, okay? That's your high school 3 EOCs. Now note that your Math 1 includes your 8th graders. But I didn't do a Math 1 chart for every middle school 8th grade, because they're pretty much 100%. But the middle schools are included in the total LEA number, but of course not in the high school number. Okay, so when you see the high school math numbers, that's them. Next, we have middle school, common ground here. We got math and reading and science. There's a rhyme and a reason. And behind every chart is the math behind it. So that if you find that I have to click on the calculator, let me know. Next tab here, we go to elementary. And like I said with high school, I alphabetize the schools. There is no special one over the other. They're not in any type of order except for A to Z. That's fair. Okay? Elementary is by math EOG, reading EOG, and grade 5 science EOG. So this is a breakdown of the subgroup data that is male and female, African American, white, and Hispanic for each of these subjects. Now, I know that you're gonna have questions in the future about our TSI, CSI schools and students with disabilities, but I'm gonna hold that for, December.
Will you explain TSI and CSI, just what it is? This is new.
Please.
It is new.
Under every Student Succeeds Act, there are schools that are under the watch list. I think that makes them special because students with disabilities, we've really got to get more of them to be proficient, to pass, to show success. We're making it in the growth category. They're the students that really carry us in that 20% growth, but we've got to get them to proficiency. So that's why we're on the TSI watch list, because we need more students with disabilities to pass EOCs and EOGs. So I will give you plenty of detail about that in our next meeting. Did I explain that enough?
You did, and if you look at the document I shared for the state, you will see that same correlation regarding subgroup data.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we probably need a moment to take a look. So if it's all right with you, gentlemen, I suspect you might want to take a look, give us about 2 or 3 minutes, and let me see if there are any questions that come up before you leave, because they're gonna take this home, along with all the school improvement plans. I believe Ms. Petaway uploaded those today, because we will be taking action. You received the executive summaries and some data on the school, but the actual plans themselves are now uploaded on tonight's meeting under closed session. Under closed session. Those are all there.
Could we have more than just 3 minutes?
Absolutely. I think we need a moment. We do. So let's just take some time, and then I'll check back in with you. But if you'll take a moment to look, let's see if we have any questions Ms. Cook can help us with while you sort of decipher all of this over the next week before we take action. And you're not taking action on this. This just supports some of what you'll hear tonight in school improvement plans.
What's the end result? What's the end result of what we're looking to do about it?
This information is just good for you to have as you look at why certain areas are being targeted in school improvement plans. This is good data. This is rich data for that purpose.
Well, I have a simple question. Not only what is the end result, but is this, to what extent do the teachers have used and come back to, I guess, compare whatever the progress is of the students with this data?
I would say that when I worked with principals in the last 30 days with data and their school improvement plans, they knew this data.
Right.
But I encourage them to look at the students that are in their seats right this minute, because this is rearview mirror. But use this in the back of your mind, that go into your classrooms, first period, third period, fourth period, and look at your subgroup data now. Because how these students perform fall and spring is what's going in the bank for this time next year. And when we're looking at CCR level 4s and 5s, that's our 10-year plan with ESSA. They're looking at 4s and 5s. So I encourage principals, look at the year before tested. How many of those kids were in the 2-3 range? You need to bump them up in that 4 or 5 range. You need to push them. What kids are level 2, get them in that 3. You know, so we looked at subgroup data for the kids in the seats now when we were looking at plans. But this is how they've performed over the last 4 years to see if there are trends. If we're really moving a subgroup up, is there much of a gap?
Well, and I appreciate that. In essence, that's what I would like to know, based on the staff's review. Is there an upward trend?
Okay, yes and no in certain places, and that's
Well,
why.
I don't care about the yes.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
concerned about the no's.
okay, all right, well
And
then I would
that's what I
encourage you,
want.
when you're going through that, pick out the schools that you have a question about which one is a definite no. I think you're gonna be pretty excited and surprised that there isn't as much of a gap in some subgroups as you might expect. When you look, that's why it was important to do my math work behind it, so you see the denominator.
And your numbering,
Mhm.
and your numbering,
Mhm.
quantity of the student.
Of that specific subgroup. I didn't take the total number of males and just put how many Hispanic passed, white
Sure.
passed, or I wanted to use their ethnic race denominator so that we looked at them as a subgroup. Or, you know, and we really look at what we need, what they need. When I say they, Hispanic students at one school have outnumbered white students. And so they're outperforming white students. So we're doing something right in some places with Hispanic students.
And that's important, and to the extent that we identify what we're doing right, are we replicating or attempting to
I
replicate
think
that?
that's what we need to do with the school improvement plans this year. All that is relevant, pertinent, deliberate conversation that we need to have. But I wanted to share it with you guys first. My principals don't have these charts yet, but they will as soon as I can break it up and give them their parts.
Your low performance schools.
Yes, I made posters. That's why it took a while to get this book. They've got individual posters with their math across the top, and then their reading, and then their science. So some schools wanted it large and in color. So we'll put that on a poster. I left those in my office stuck to the wall, but if you want to see them.
This is, just give us a moment. This is good data. This is rich data. I think it is important data for us to know the stories, the true stories behind the numbers, Some numbers on the surface appear to tell a story, but when you look at things broken down this way by school, sometimes there's a little different story. So take some time with this, if you will. Just take a few
And I
minutes.
think the principals know the stories with their school improvement plans. I'm your numbers girl. I can give you a number all day long. And I'd love to know the story behind the numbers. A lot of times I hear when they bring in test to scan, and when we talk about what's going on, but your principals know their buildings and their kids better than anybody. My next document will be students with disabilities. And how they're performing.
But you said something that I agree with totally, that our teachers know their students better than anyone. And that's what I asked for the last time we had a meeting, is for those, be able to bring in something that those where the rubber meets the road. Their suggestions of what they think needs to be done, what they need to get it done. Those type things is what I'm interested in.
Which kids in their class have the heaviest need, and what they think
What will work to bring them.
what'll fill in those gaps, if it's materials or time.
Because the teacher, she knows what that child needs, what that child needs. That's what I'm looking to see, that type of information.
And a lot of times principals know that, and that's how they schedule. You've got some foundations classes that take a year long for kids that need more attention in Math 1, so we stretch it out.
Mr. Richardson, that question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So just looking at one of these, so like Mount Energy, looking at African American males, there were 9 guys that passed and 9 guys that didn't. So I'm assuming that the principal can tell who those 9 were, and then they're working on strategies for the next year teacher on things that didn't work last year, we're gonna do something different this year.
And on my pivot table, when I pull the 9 that passed and the 9 that didn't, all I have to do is hot click that button and it gives me those 9 names. They know the names, the grade levels, everything, because this is combining 3 through 5. So that number of proficiency is not gonna be the exact same that you've seen on a spreadsheet by grade, because I combine 3 through 5. But yes, it is very easy to put your hands on that
And
name.
that's where they're using their data rooms and all that stuff.
And what's not included in here, the principals and the teachers have access to their EBOS data, which will be updated and, should
Hopefully
be
in the
next,
next,
should be
within the
next
next couple of
month.
weeks.
Yeah, so they also have that piece for those kids that are sitting in their classes now. They're using the EBOS data now, but they're pulling it from what they had available last year. And because this year's data is not available in EBOS.
But they've had data since we tested back in May, June to sort and filter by scale score and ethnic race.
I want to make sure that we don't repeat mistakes of the past and looking at, not a lot, there's 2 schools. Man, I'm saying where there was a dip,
Okay?
16, 17, but a rebound, 17, 18. So, we don't want history to repeat itself, we want to continue.
We don't want to dip, we need to
That's
keep
exactly
moving up.
right, so we want to, I would like to get some sense as to what might have generated that dip. Because it rebounded, so obviously we did something.
And it could be a teacher turnover, it could be several things, and your principals are gonna know the answers to that. Because they know their personal story. I've just given you a colorful version of the number.
Board members, you still need a few more minutes to look through these. I see we all do, and all but David Richardson. He's a numbers man.
He saw me do this last
I
year.
was gonna say, I got
When he and
first-hand
Mr.
tour
Peace,
with Mr. Beats.
Oh, okay.
and that was more than just a few minutes.
I hope you find
A lot
this
more.
helpful. share with you tonight, you might want to take a look at those 5 schools very quickly. This is subgroup data. The schools have sort of deciphered and gone through and combed and sifted the data. But you might want to pay attention to those 5 this evening. And I believe in transparency. Is this helpful information, board members?
In the way that the chart's set up, because Mr. Richardson helped me do that last, he helped me pick the one with the numbers across the bottom. So I remember showing you in this, it's like 3 or 4 different ones. And y'all helped me pick the one that gave me the most.
The thing that I like about this, Beth, is that we know that statistically, 1 year to the next means nothing. It's nothing but a random act of improvement or discipline improvement. So having, and 3 or more data points, you can begin to say this means something. So having these bar graphs are so important. Number one, not only because it's multiple data, but also because it shows us what trend is going on. Like you look at science, the trend in science, it's not good. But then there's some other reading trends, middle schools that overall look good. So having these bar graphs for each school is very helpful.
And so next year, when we test in Beijing, I will add another year to it. Come back and add another year to the chart. So this time next year, we'll have 5. Any other
I'll tell you what I like to first look at, just a quick glance. I'm gonna use African American and Caucasian, for instance. When I look at the ones right here on page.
I didn't number the pages, I just
Not
had it
yet,
high
the
school.
pre-model, I just use this one as an example. When I see African Americans, it's 2014, 15, 138. I know that's based on the number. To 2017, 2018, goes up to 36.36. Then I look at Caucasians go from 37.83 to 50%. That tells me that actually, by looking at this, the African American percentage jumped higher than the Caucasian. And that sounds good to me, because I know there's been a gap the other way over the years. So what I can do at a glance, when I look at the chart like this, it tells me if there is the progress put to that point to have really bleached that gap, if you understand what I'm saying. That's what I do like about that.
Because you're looking just at that subgroup versus mixing the numbers in the denominator with everybody, which was my purpose. I'm glad that that's what you want to know. Might not always be the best numbers, but that's where we're at.
Well, I think that most of us are complete, and we can spend all night here, so.
And I'm here for meetings. If y'all want to come sit with me, I will gladly.
That's a good idea if anybody has any further information. Okay? Any general comments before we move on about this data, what you've seen? Mr. Smith has made a comment. Anybody else have any comments?
Being a newer board member, this way was much easier to understand it than what we got 2 years ago.
Because that's everything compiled. That was in spot checks. But this is, I didn't stop till I finished everything. Because you need it all, not just the low performing or just high school. So it's taken me a while to do this.
Okay.
Thanks for
Anybody?
the effort.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
Mr. Pease?
I'm just appreciative of being able to look at the percentages and the numbers because now I can compare.
So you're okay with how I put one right behind the other? Okay. I wanna be able to defend that percentage at the bottom, see where it came from.
The only thing that's left is to figure out, find out why the gaps and what's being done to move.
You know, one thing that may be good to add next year is just maybe a short commentary from the principal, that maybe they could tell us something that happened in that we wouldn't know.
Because there are, as we asked, there are some pockets where what I received was, well, we had a teacher leave half the year, we had a sub remainder of the year, and that explained a particular number to me. Or something happened, or this many children disenrolled, which left only this many at the end of the year. There's some pretty neat pieces that at least gave context to some of the questions you all have. So I think what you will find with this subgroup data, and I appreciate that, and Dr. Myrick and the academic team, making sure it's something easy to read, because when you lay the school improvement plans on top of subgroup data, it allows you to see what is illuminated. It allows you to see. Now, one thing that said that I think we have to sort of keep in mind, this is last year's data. So the question is, where do we put emphasis to move forward this year so that we continue to grow children? And that's where we want to remain.
Well, and in that context, let's say the issue of we had a substitute. If we found out we had a substitute, well, then my next question would be is, do we have a permanent teacher there this next year or not? Because we're gonna see the same kind of thing if we don't have a permanent teacher there.
And what did we use to fill the gap? Was it Mentum used? Was there an A to Z? Was software? You know, did we have additional resources come in? All very fair questions.
So if a principal say, we had this dip because the teacher left midway through the year, then my next question is going to be, what did you do to mitigate that not happening? What are you going to do?
And that is a fair question of all of us. And I'll tell you what you'll find tonight for this next part is just what not only that principal did, but what the district did. Again, that is sort of in the rearview mirror. So my question is, what do we do to make sure that doesn't happen again? But that
But the
group of
principal is
children.
gonna be on the front line, so the bench there would be, what did you do to engage the district in helping mitigate
That's right.
this problem?
We had, that's right, the wraparound services for those that were already illuminated for the low performing. We had wraparound. Don't forget that piece, and that is where the district automatically went in and gave extra support and did some things. But not every school got wraparound services because they weren't identified last year. So you want to speak to that a little bit as for where we're going this year, Dr. Myers?
Yes, so the schools that received the wraparound services last year, those, we will continue to provide wraparound services for those schools this year, as well as add the schools in that are low performing, that were identified as low performing this year. And some of that work has already started before we could get our first meeting off the ground. Some of the members of the academic team going in and working with principals on request with PD, as well as just with coming in and monitoring some instruction in the classroom. So we're starting out with that this year. With having so many new principals, our wraparound is kind of expanding. And so the academic team, you'll see them here tonight with the minus with, I think there are 2 that are not going to be here tonight. So they're pretty stretched, pretty thin. We're just trying to wrap around to give the support that's needed. But we are focusing on the schools that are low performing this year, in hopes to get them out of low performing status, as well as trying to make sure that we don't have any of our other schools slip into low performing status. So that's always the trick. Just like someone said, when you're testing a group of kids, you never know what you're going to get from year to year, because with only being able to test one moment in time, depending on how that child is feeling that day, will determine the outcome of that child. And this will come back again this year in math. Will not be counted in our performance because it's being retooled by the state this year. So we're getting a new EOC added, Math 3, and the math curriculum has been overhauled a little bit. So we won't get math scores that are going to be counted
It'll be
in.
delayed until like September, before we see how our math scores.
And so when we said wraparound for last year, we're talking in essence about 6 people for the entire district, because we have no instructional specialists. And that is typically a district's first line defense, to stay in there and to help with instruction, PLCs, to work directly with teachers and principals, and our district doesn't have them. Nor do we have that secondary director. We have an elementary director, but she also does professional development and all the before and after school care and things of that nature. So I'm just asking you to sort of keep in the back of your minds that we see some really neat growth in pockets that I'd really love to see expanded across all of our schools. I'm not sure we've got all the folks we need to help make that happen because we're so thin. But one of the things we won't do is we will not make excuses for not achieving. Our motto is excellence and achievement for all, and that is what we're going to work to do.
Let me add to that, Dr. Clay, because you're really drumming my drum. I hope that as a LEA, that we will not use that word cut anymore. That we will push to get what we need to be effectively educating our kids in Granville County. And I would suggest to you and to the team, if y'all see a need for someone, put it on our table and ask that we would do it to help bring our kids up to the point where they need to be. And then let us work together to find resources to be able to do it. Instead of always still, when you said it beautifully, you work to death, but you will not let that hinder you from giving it 300% effort to make it better. But at the same time, don't be afraid to ask for the things that you know you need. Particularly, I look for our teachers to be able to be bold enough to say that to the principals. The principals be bold enough to bring that before us as well. To me, that's more important than anything, that we make Granville County successful for our children. And we can't do it by keep cutting things. We've got to have the resources as well as the people to be able to do it. I'll hop in every chance I get a fall. Love that garden.
Thank you. I know will the academic team just stand, please? I just want you to see these individuals who have worked tirelessly. That's it. That is honestly all Dr. Myrick has. And all of those folk wear 3 and 4 hats apiece. They really do, but I'm most impressed with where, remember one of our goals was to have double-digit gains, and you'll see pockets of that in here. That is extremely impressive when you're growing children by double digits. And I even saw some 20-point plus gains. It's impressive. The concern is when we see babies go backwards. And that's what we have to continue to work on. So, Beth, gentlemen, if you don't mind, may I, anything else for Beth?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We will bring her back in December because there are some state responses to some of this that we are just now getting regarding ESSA. Dr. Myrick and Beth and some others are going